Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee Heat Check, presented by the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. I am your host, Tyler Fornes. With me, as always, is Fred. Tyler, can you hear me? Moreland, as we dealt with some audio issues this morning. Fred, how are you?
I'm doing all right, getting over a head cold. So I'm, trying not to bring back like vintage Dave Meltzer coughing for, 8 weeks, hopefully. But yeah, I spent most of this week on my ass, which is less pleasurable than you might hope for, but doing all right.
All right is good. And we're going to start off this morning by sending all of our best wishes and condolences to everybody who knew the legendary Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt, who both tragically passed away this week. Terry Funk was 79 and Bray Wyatt was unfortunately 36. We send all of our best wishes to both of them. And if you want a really great retrospective, especially on Terry Funk, the guys at the flagship podcast on this same podcast network spent nearly 2 hours discussing the life and career of Terry Funk. And it's not something you're going to want to miss.
Yeah, I was able to listen to a little bit of that and it was really good. Yeah, Terry Funk was mostly before my time. I remember his little bit of a run in WWF in the Monday Night Wars era as Chainsaw Charlie, which is still one of the most baffling things ever.
That dumpster match at WrestleMania was really fun.
Yeah, and like he had a really good like Falls Count Anywhere match with Foley on a Random Brawl, I think, too, in the build up to that. But, like, I was just a stupid kid. I hadn't really heard of Terry Funk before because I didn't really come from a wrestling, family or anything. Like, had any other fans to rely on there. But, yeah, I mean, he was just, any clip you watch of him going back, he was just absolutely amazing. And I can't really properly eulogize him, but I can say that I've enjoyed literally everything I've ever seen him do. And just an absolute all-timer. And also really good in Roadhouse, too. One of my all-time favorite fun movies. And he just did a fantastic job and a bit part in that. But it's a damn shame. All kinds of wonderful things were said about him. And then we just got the absolutely heartbreaking news about Wyndham Rotundo, of course, Bray Wyatt, passing suddenly at the age of 36, which is entirely too young. No matter what, so under any circumstances, and basically he contracted COVID, I think, around the start of the year, and had a very serious case of it, and it exacerbated some pre-existing cardiac issues he had, and it appeared he was on the road to recovery. There were talks of it, like, actually planning for his return to the ring in the next month or two, I think. And he's, Sean Ross Sapp shared, with the permission of the family, that he basically had a heart attack yesterday. We're recording this on the 25th of August, and he had a heart attack and passed away suddenly. And terrifying stuff. Really sad.
Fred, he wasn't just supposed to come back in a couple weeks. He was supposed to come back tomorrow, August 26th. Oh, really?
I actually had not seen that, so that's wild to see or hear. But yeah, don't mess with COVID. That's scary stuff. But just heartbreaking. He actually, when I came back, I wasn't like a giant mark for him or anything. But when I did come back to being a wrestling fan, because I had stopped watching around 98, 99 as a kid, and I kind of kept following it from about 03 on, but didn't watch it regularly until the big Daniel Bryan, obviously was the name he was using at the time, run up to Mania 30. And that's why you can blame that on my presence on anything to do with wrestling these days. Sorry. But of course, Bray Wyatt was about, I think, at the peak of his of what interested me about him as the filthy swamp wizard kind of gimmick he had going on. And like that was my favorite iteration of him, was just the dirty, cult leader from Louisiana kind of gimmick. And unfortunately, Vince McMahon did an awful job with him in that setting. And I think Bray had some health issues, like specifically like a foot issue, I think, that affected his in-ring ability. And there was never really clear creative for him to have a good storyline. And he later had, when I basically checked out of WWE, he had success as The Fiend, and I wasn't really a big fan of that. But obviously he had a lot of talent and, had some unique ideas about wrestling, which, you always wonder how these would have worked under different circumstances. It's hard to say. But just a really unique and talented guy, and it really sucks. And just really sad news.
Yeah, I know recently there's been a lot of people really down on his work because of what his gimmick had become, where he went from that cult leader, which honestly was tremendous, and he was so good in that role, to basically like a swamp wizard. And to me, that doesn't really have much of a place in wrestling, like magic and stuff. You can get away with a little bit, I guess, but when it becomes your gimmick, nah. Like, as dumb as it was, like when the Undertaker would have like lightning bolts come down from the rafters, that was kind of cool once. Twice, 3 times, becoming a regular thing. Nah, that's not pro wrestling. We're missing the plot at that point. And I feel so bad for the wrestler that he never really got a chance at redeeming that. And obviously, from a human perspective, losing your life at the age of 36 due to no fault of your own is tragic. And he leaves behind, I believe it was 4 kids and a loving wife, and just awful on every level. But if you want more retrospect on those two and their careers, I highly recommend you go listen to The Flagship, because we have the biggest wrestling show in the world, in the history of the world, to preview here this afternoon. And we're going to start off with some news. Obviously, we already talked about it, but let's jump into the card. AR Fox and Ray Phoenix have been removed from All In, and they're different reasons. Ray Phoenix is missing All In to try to establish residency in the U.S., and AR Fox, according to Brian Alvarez from Wrestling Observer Radio, there's heat on him because AEW found out last minute that he couldn't make the show, and he hasn't wrestled outside the U.S. per cage match since 2016. Fred, this sounds like a fireable offense.
Yeah, you got to wonder what exactly is going on here. If if he had some kind of legal issue. I couldn't really find any record of that online. But if he has some kind of legal reason he can't go into the UK, what's particularly odd is not only did he not work the Canada stretch that AEW had earlier this year, I can't really find a record of him ever working Canada, which seems kind of unusual for a guy of his stature and length.
You know what that sounds like to me?
The Indies.
DUI.
It could be.
If you get a DUI, you don't get to go to Canada.
Yeah. It might be. I was able to find an arrest from over a decade ago for possession of marijuana that there's some vague records of online under his shoot name. And the mugshot appears to match, but I mean, I don't know, man. It's very odd. We don't know what's going on exactly, and we'll possibly find out at some point. We'll see. I imagine this will probably be something that'll take a little time to come out exactly why he can't make it, but it's really bad that he can't, because with him, he it's kind of not that he isn't good. I don't want to make it sound like that, but we actually had a discussion when they started this angle with Swerve Strickland about how I was, kind of thinking that he's a good worker, but I don't know what his, ceiling is in the company other than like solid mid-carder. Like I compared him to Matt Sydal, and then they turned him heel and looked like they were doing something with him, and he seemed to be doing really well in that role. But here we are, and there's got to be more information coming out at some point in the near future over it, but it's just not. It's not good, and if he misled AEW about his ability to travel to the UK or other places, then that's not good, and I think they'd be pretty justified in dropping him if they wanted to, if that was the case. But it's very odd because like this storyline just got completely blown up this week on Dynamite. It wasn't even like, oh, it's a 1 week injury angle, we'll bring this back at in Chicago at All Out. It's oh, he's not a heel anymore. He's a babyface now. It's completely done. And that's a shame because I thought this was one of the best angles, if not the best angle going on or storyline, I should say, in AEW.
Him going to Nick Wayne's house and almost killing him. And then Nick Wayne's mom sitting front row and throwing the bloody like tank top at her. Great stuff.
Yeah.
That was tremendous. And you just get the sense that this company is going from a long-term build company to a week-to-week company, and it's quite a shame.
I wanted to talk about that with you, and let me know if this isn't the right time to bring that up. But I have some, I got some thoughts about this build. And,
it's always a good time to talk about Tony Khan's booking. That's a lot of what this show's been about. We have had a lot of criticisms about him.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to do it now, but I can launch into it now if you want.
Hey, let's do it. Let's have some fun.
All right, let's do it. I am pretty damn worried about the direction of this company. He's we when this company started out, we had like these really thought out, well done angles for literally months and months, if not years, setting stuff up. And whether it be like the Hangman Page Kenny Omega storyline, or MJF Cody Rhodes, or Cody Rhodes Darby Allin is a good one that Joe Lanza talked about previously. It's just like, what are we? We don't have that anymore. It's just very much some stuff's going to happen this week, and it'll be connected next week. It's not full blown like the worst of Vince McMahon's no planning booking, but it's getting closer than I would be comfortable with, I gotta say. And that's not good. They really gotta tighten some stuff up here.
Their longest running story that's going to get a payoff is Billy Gunn. And it's not an insult to Billy Gunn. The dude's just 58, and you have all these wrestlers.
It's such a talented roster.
Does Tony Khan not have full control of his booking anymore? And I want to preface this because we know Tony Khan is the final decision maker. But that doesn't mean he has control. You can still be like, yes, this is the decision that I'm making, but that doesn't mean you feel like you are in control. And I think that's a big difference here.
Okay. I think I may have just found something about AR Fox that may have something to do with it. So live on air. So this is from a March 5th, 2012 Wrestling Observer newsletter. And it's talking about how AR Fox was trying to go into the 16-karat gold tournament that WXW runs in Germany. And he went to the UK first this week. This is what Dave wrote. And was sent back home because he came in without a working visa. He tried to get in on a tourist visa, which a lot of indie groups do. But he got nabbed when they found out he was coming as a tourist, but only had $20 on him and was traveling with wrestling gear. So I wonder if that, if that has any impact here. It's a possibility, I guess, but I don't know enough about, visa law. But that's one thing to think about possibly.
You remember Speedball, how he got caught working without a visa and then he got banned from the US for 5 years?
Yeah, and it didn't ruin his career, but it really kept him from being a bigger star for quite a while. I think maybe it worked out for him long term because those reps in DDT really helped him out. But I mean, he that's a great example of it because he was doing really well in PWG, I think, back oh goodness, was that 2016, 2015? I think was when his big run was and getting a pretty big push there. And then he just kind of disappeared, and I wasn't plugged in enough to really know what was going on at that point. But it was 100% because he tried to do that with the United States. So, granted, it's been quite a long time since this happened, but you got to wonder, But going back to the booking concerns, man, I just, the vibes on this company right now feel very different from what they did in 2019, 2020.
I hate it.
And yeah, there's early days. They didn't have the best roster. They had talent for sure. Don't get me wrong, but they had some, they used Brandon Cutler a little bit as a serious wrestler and not like an outright comedy figure like he is now. And I think that just speaks a lot to it. Nowadays Brandon Cutler just doesn't have the talent to get that kind of push or featured spot. As I watched Tyler try to pull the cord for his headphones out of his dog's mouth. So I don't know. The booking feels very sloppy, and there's been a lot of noise this year about, we're bringing in Will Washington to help keep things cleaner. We're bringing in all these guys to, it feels like they brought in 30 guys to help out with keeping the place running, neater and more planned. And it just feels like it's getting worse and worse. And I don't know what the deal is, but it feels like it just, we've gone from Taz calling in WWE a sloppy shop in that promo way early on to AEW coming across as far more of a sloppy shop. We got people being booked for shows in England that they can't go to, apparently, for one reason or another. And it's just very unorganized, it feels like, and it's coming through. And I'm not worried about the quality of this upcoming show, because I think AEW always delivers on its pay-per-views, and the roster is so good now that they can overcome mediocre booking. But I am worried about, in general, the long-term direction of this company, and if its booking is going to get any neater. and back to even, close to those standards of the early days of like having a long-term plan. Because I don't know that we have a long-term plan right now. It feels like so much is up in the air, and so many different people apparently having some kind of pull on things and diverting the plans, and it does not have the feel of like the vision of one guy. And I don't know if it's Tony Khan taking a step back or what, but it needs addressed. And maybe Tony Khan's lost his fastball. I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah, I will say this. It feels like, and we could be completely off base here, the Ray Phoenix one feels like that they thought they were going to be able to get him a visa, and they just realized that it just wasn't going to happen, and it happened to be last second. That, to me, feels like the case rather than them knowing.
Mm-hmm. I think what I read was that Ray Phoenix is trying to establish residency in the U.S. so he can become a citizen. And to do that, you can't leave the country for a while. So he's stuck in the U.S. as long as he wants to pursue that until he gets it. And I don't know how recently he started that, if there was a miscommunication with that. But, I think that's a very different situation from what it appears AR Fox is, handling.
Yeah. The Fox thing feels really, really different because you make up an excuse or do an injury angle if he just can't leave, and you don't completely flip an angle that was getting over.
Yeah. That was working really well, frankly.
It's just another example why we are worried about the direction of this company, because like Tony Khan's booking has always been inconsistent, and there's been so many bright spots, especially early on, that I think people overlooked some of the other stuff. And it's something we haven't done. We've been like, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. And now you're seeing him backtrack. Why in the world does Blackpool Combat Club 5 guys now? Why didn't they just say, find a 6th? We're not going to give up our 6th. That doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, that was an odd one when they were just like, it's 5-on-5. And it's like, but a week ago it was 6-on-6, and I know that, you're writing out Ray, but, considering the roster they have. And, like, you got all these big names. I know that Ewan wrote for the site about how Emi Sakura should get her moment on Wembley. And, like, yeah, it'd be nice if she did. But we've got guys like Ricky Starks that aren't even getting the shot. It's wild some of the names getting left off of here, ignoring, like, Bryan Danielson for injury and all that. And it's kind of like, we can't, as I'm kind of surprised that Tony Khan, given all his resources and everything, isn't, and given his general reputation as like a happy backstage, someone that likes to treat his wrestlers well, that he wouldn't do like a battle royal, just to get 20 guys on the show. We have one women's match on here that was built too horribly. One of the most afterthought matches I've ever seen, where they tried. Look, I know that promoting, especially in pro wrestling, it's to some degree, built on lies because it's all work and et cetera, et cetera. And even if something stinks, you like to go back to it years later. And, if it can play into a storyline and you can try to sell that it was better than it was, you do that, right? That all makes perfect sense. Pretending that a 4-way match between women by citing like all these utterly forgettable and really not very good matches that have happened previously, like these matches that are solidly in like the 2 to 2.5 star range, and being like, this is part of the history of AEW and we're bringing it back like it's some big deal. Honestly, the stakes are kind of like this, but they also aren't kind of like this. But you remember that one Undertaker WrestleMania match that they set up by having 4 dudes do a 4-way match on a random Raw like a month ahead of time?
Which Mania was that? Was that
the CM Punk match? Was that actually how they started that storyline?
It might have been the CM Punk match.
I think it was, and it was just like, this is your slam dunk, big match of the year. Like, even if your world title feuds are flopping, you've got this great fallback of the Undertaker streak match you can always pull out at this point in time. And they were just like, oh, I guess we'll do a 4-way match to see who has the honor. And I think, you know, the reporting was someone got fired at that point in time for doing such a bad job of setting it up. And here we are in AEW, and we have one women's match on there. And it's set up by a mini tournament directly after doing 2 Owen Hart tournaments to get spots in the field. You have your world champion having to win a match to get in, while the woman she just beat is already locked into the field. I don't know, like, it's just frankly bizarre, that whole storyline, and I'm using storyline very loosely there because there's hardly a story to it. And you could do interesting stuff there. You could have teased dissension between the Outcasts. You could have teased Britt Baker turning heel. You could have done any number of things. And instead, we just got this dead in the water, like token as it gets, women's match without even like putting the TBS championship on or another women's match. Frankly, I think you've got a lot of women's workers that aren't up to snuff in terms of, you know, recent performances, getting heavy TV time for that division. You don't really have a good storyline going on. You have Britt Baker, who ranges from like below average to, in a certain circumstance, above average as a worker, but her strength has always been her promos, and she hasn't cut a real meaningful promo in God knows how long. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this women's division is at this point in time. I don't know what the thinking is with it. You know, there's all this talent out there that they have access to, or that they could have at one point got access to, that they just haven't brought in. They could have had a shot, I think, at Deonna Purrazzo at some point. No apparent interest. They could have, you know, there was a Camille, who's very good for NWA. She was around for a little bit, but never stuck for some reason. You've got Heidi Howitzer and Max the Impaler doing pretty damn well as a monster tag team in Tokyo Joshi Pro. They're based out of North America. Not even a sniff of them. Athena is stuck in the hinterlands of Ring of Honor. And we're pushing like a green, you know, sky blue, more like sky green. You know, like, she's not doing particularly well right now. Ruby Soho isn't knocking it out of the park. Saraya, I think she's shot in the ring, frankly. It's a really pessimistic time, especially for the women's division in AEW. Chris Jericho and Will Ospreay got billed off of like a week, despite having this big feel. To like just the names that they are, you know. You've got Chris Jericho, who is one of the like inner circle Hall of Famers, no pun intended, and you've got Will Ospreay, who is, you could argue, has been the best in-ring performer of the past 5 years, having a match, and it just doesn't feel like that big of a deal. And I don't know, man. It's a very weird time in this company's history.
It is a really weird time. And let's go to the women's match. Fred, all they had to do was say the first women's match in this company's canon was All In, and it was a 4-way. So we're going to honor that by doing another 4-way. Yeah. That's it.
That's, you don't have to shut up after that. Don't have to see another damn thing. That's good enough right there. And you could still stuck even with the qualifying matches if you wanted to. That would have been fine. But
and that's the kind of stuff when we talk about Will Washington, his entire job was being brought in to just get things like that. Like, hey, we're going to do this. Well, hey, this doesn't make sense. Why are you calling it historic? No, it's not. And we obviously don't know the inner workings of the room. But they basically told us that's his job. Mm-hmm. And why is this stuff still getting through the cracks? I think we might be at a point where there's just too many people in the room. And we know that there are too many people in the room who love WWE style storytelling. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can do WWE style storytelling with some of this stuff, but the antithesis of this company is it's not WWE.
Yeah. That's the key part of AEW's identity is it's an alternative. You know, Tony Khan's gone out to make a big deal about how they're a challenger brand, that they're Pepsi to WWE's Coke, that they're Burger King to WWE's McDonald's. And I don't know, man, it feels like we're really flirting. You know, I know that the MJF Adam Cole thing's a special thing, so it's hard not to read too much into that. But I mean, up and down this card, like, you know, the best build, I guess, are the Acclaimed against House of Black, which is based around Billy Gunn returning to the ring, which isn't really like super exciting, I guess, in a way. I mean, I like Billy Gunn well enough, don't get me wrong, but, you know, he's Billy Gunn. He's 50, you know, whatever he is now. And the other one that really got a good build and has since been blown up is that Darby and Sting against Swerve and now Christian Cage.
It's just so frustrating, Fred. Yeah. We had this company that was finally delivering a type of pro wrestling that American fans had wanted in America for such a long time. And it just feels like it's being taken away from us. And that we're going to get in a lot more about the booking and talking about it in terms of what this card is, because, oh my gosh, this card is just wonky. And it's probably going to be really good, but it's wonky. Let's continue with some of this other news because we're going to dive a lot more into this. We may be getting Edge in AEW.
We may be.
WWE reportedly declined to match what it would take to sign him, which I think it was reported it was around $3 million a year. I may be wrong on that, but for some reason that number's coming to me.
I didn't see a number, so
listen. All I gotta say is Edge reportedly has never met his father, and Christian Cage is in this company. They're best friends. That, like, we're gonna get some kind of Edge and Christian stuff. And you know what? The Hardy nostalgia didn't work for multiple reasons. This could because working. they're both still good in the ring.
Yeah, Edge just had a pretty good match with Sheamus on SmackDown last week. There was a nice little farewell to him. I went 4 stars on that flat. I enjoyed
really
it.
Good for a SmackDown TV match.
Yeah, they gave it a lot of time too. Like WWE really did do him a solid there, make him look good, and have him go over Sheamus and have him put on a good match. I mean, I think Sheamus was better in the match probably, but I mean, Edge looked good despite, you know, he I think he's finally figured out like the facial hair thing. So like it's not like ripped body of a 28-year-old, head of a 60-year-old kind of thing, you know, because he looks older in the face than he actually is a little bit, and then he's got the super jacked look. It was odd early on. But I don't know, you know, I'm a little hesitant about Edge coming in just because I don't think he's been really a super success on his return in WWE, but he has some juice left. I mean, it's definitely a better option than, you know, the Hardys right now, or a year ago. That's an example. Yeah, so it's kind of odd, but you know, the dude is I think he's so talented, and hopefully if he's put in the right spot, he can put on a really good storyline, and you know, maybe partnering or, you know, opposing him from Christian with his current gimmick would work, but we'll see. You know, there's a lot going on. It could just be that he doesn't want to go anywhere. This could all be you know, just it could be like Randy Orton, who used AEW a couple years ago for leverage against WWE to get money. We'll see.
Listen, I'd be all for a Edge and Christian nostalgia run, because I think, especially with how great, just tremendously great Christian has been in this company, I think that they'd be fine. As you can hear Eclair panting because Odie just will not leave her alone. It's something that I think they could be done really well. And Tony Khan has done so with Malachi Black, really filtered out the worst instincts. And House of Black, like, yeah, Malachi still gets to do his lore stuff, but it's not over the top. And then once they get in the ring, no frills, no bullshit. And I think that's awesome. We could be sitting on a really good run from these two. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, it could be a really interesting thing, and I look forward to seeing what possibly comes from it. I mean, Christian's just been on fire as far as the act right now. Like, you could tell me that you think this is the best run of his career, and like, I can't really say you're crazy because he's cutting these great promos every time he's given a chance.
Yeah, 100%. It
just a great scumbag.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't shock me if it's at Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. Although Adam Copeland did say that he is not available, or that his contract runs through next month. Who knows if that's the truth? It's wrestling; everyone lies, but that is out there. So,
yeah. Well, why would you have your going away match month and a half before your contract runs out? That seems kind of weird.
Yeah, a little weird.
Yeah. That's honestly, if he debuts, it's 100% just a ploy to keep the surprise element, because the second You Think You Know Me hits in the stadium, that's just going to be, the place can go bonkers.
Yeah.
And like, we grew up on Edge. Like, that Edge Cena feud over the course of like 06 to 09 was awesome stuff. And like, there was parts of it that just stunk. I mean, it's WWE. There's parts of a lot of it that stink.
Yeah.
I remember really enjoying it in real time.
Yeah.
Moving forward, a couple contract things. The boys have re-signed with AEW ROH, and it's Dalton Castle's boys. I love that gimmick. I think that gimmick.
It's such a great shtick, man. Can we talk about Dalton Castle and how much he rules?
Dalton Castle's great, man.
I know he's not quite the worker he once was, though. It does seem like he's actually like really recovered physically from some serious issues he was having, and thank God for that. But he's just such a great personality that, like, I can't believe he's not featured on TV every single week. He's really good at being a professional wrestler. He's just a complete maniac. He kind of reminds me of, it's kind of like Juice Robinson. These guys that just haven't figured out about how to be these larger than life characters, and for some reason that's not what WWE wants these days, despite it being good. And them just making it bigger outside of that system. But his Dalton Castle's entrance on Collision last week was just like fantastic. Absolutely perfect. If you want, I seriously think that Dalton Castle is custom built for like these 60 or 90-second packages that can get a guy over. And you just give him that much time, every week for 4 weeks. And I think by the 5th week, he'd be a star.
Give me more Dalton Castle. I remember watching him when he first came into Ring of Honor, and I'm like, ooh, this dude is good. Just the charisma oozes from him. And I mean, he's a flamboyant peacock character.
Yeah, literally.
You got to have charisma to pull that kind of thing off. It's of a similar ilk, and not on the same level, but it's a similar ilk to Hiroshi Tanahashi, where Tanahashi is just like, come on, the guy is just intentionally trying to be like flamboyant and over the top, and he strums an air guitar, but it doesn't matter because he's Hiroshi Tanahashi.
It's this stuff that sounds like it's stupid as hell on paper, and then you actually watch it happen. It works like perfectly.
That's kind of the same bit with Dalton Castle.
It's kind of the secret of pro wrestling, Yeah.
And it's fascinating to watch, and I really enjoy it. And I can't wait to see how Dalton Castle might be getting used even more so later on in this run. But man, I'm excited that the boys have resigned, because the boys are a very good part of that gimmick.
He needs the boys. He needs the Tate twins, and I'm glad they're sticking around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Brock Anderson's contract. We just talked about Brock Anderson last week.
His bad match.
His contract is up at the end of the year. That comes from his dad, Arn. That to me says, like, coming out like that, he's probably not getting re-signed. And it would honestly do him well to go to Indies for a couple years.
Oh God, he needs to leave.
You know what? Send him to All Japan.
So, I mean, All Japan or Noah. I mean, Noah's got a really weird mix of non-Japanese workers right now. That I brought, why not add Brock Anderson? But the thing with him is like I just haven't seen any progress from him whatsoever, really, since day one. Like that Collision match, he didn't look like he's really improved as a worker. He doesn't have any presence. It's like, the joke I always make about Arn Anderson is he looks like your friend's dad that's a shift worker at the docks, and you accidentally woke him up, and he's pissed as hell coming out of his bedroom at 2 p.m. because he was going to sleep till 4, wearing a wife beater with all his chest hair sticking out. And like, obviously the difference with Arn Anderson is he's got that charisma and the mind for the business and the ability to work and everything. And that's why Arn Anderson's an all-time great. And
maybe Brock just needs a Glock.
Glock Anderson is a hell of a character change. But yeah, Brock is like Arn Anderson without any of those things that made Arn Anderson Arn Anderson. He just looks like Arn Anderson and doesn't pop off the screen. He doesn't seem to have any promo ability, though they haven't really let him try. So I guess I can't really conclusively say that. But in the ring, he's just like a jaggy jag,
And it's unfortunate because he's got the look of Arn.
Yeah, it's like Arn 2.0, but then it's like one of those Boston Dynamics robots that they were going to have it walk across the room, and then it just limbs flail everywhere and stuff. It doesn't work right.
Yeah. Last thing, Darby Allin said that there will never be a bidding war for him as he is, quote, AEW for life, unquote. Good for him for being loyal, but dude, shut up.
Yeah,
you're gonna hinder any kind of money coming your way long term. Well, the other company's talking to me, dude. You told me you're never leaving. What?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna up my offer. Like I'm not.
No, he could always tell Tony I was just trying to babyface the crowd, But yeah, I can't really envision Darby ever leaving. I do hope he, has a long career. Sometimes you worry about that with him with those crazy bumps he'll take. Yeah. But he is he's damn good.
Yeah, he really is damn good. And I'm really excited to see him. I just love Darby. He's
great.
He is, man. He's gonna die at 40, and I'm not saying that as a joke. Like, dude is just crazy at the kind of bumps he takes, and it's honestly wild. But we're gonna have to transition because Fred, I don't know if you know this, we have the biggest wrestling show of all time this weekend in All In, and we have another rendition of the Heat Check.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard one of our Heat Check episodes before, what we do is we run through the card, and we just, on a 1 to 10 scale, we talk about how excited we are for the match. With 10 being, as excited as possible, and 1 being I'd rather watch paint dry. So we've got the whole card pulled up. We do have a slight spoiler, I think, from either Collision or Rampage that is going to be reflected in this card early on. So if that's a concern for you, turn it off, pause the show, and come back and listen to our wonderful audio. But yeah, you ready to go, man?
Yeah, man. Let's go.
All right, let me get this pulled up. Now we'll start with the spoiler. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hook is challenging Jack Perry for the FTW Championship on the pre-show 0 hour. Fortunately, we have apparently a 2-match pre-show, so that's promising. Hopefully, we'll grow to 3 or even 4, so that we don't have those awful talking head segments that are completely useless to me as a viewer. Maybe it drives business. I can't. If you're someone that watches a 0 hour and is like, yeah, I remember when there was like a near 5-star Eddie Kingston match on here with Tomohiro Ishii. But what really makes me buy pay-per-views is is watching RJ City and Renee Young, kayfabe discuss matches.
Who's Renee Young?
I'm sorry, Renee Paquette. My apologies to the good Paquette family. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just crazy to me that works, but I've gone on that rant before. Hook versus Jack Perry. Where are you at on this?
I don't know. It's kind of annoying that it's a last second 0 hour edition because, and obviously, because you chose to come back and listen. The idea here is that Perry was going to retire the FTW title, and obviously Hook is defending the honor of his dad because his dad created the FTW title. So I'm probably at 5. I think this could have been a little better built, at least give any kind of build other than just doing it literally the day before. Obviously, Collision was recorded 3 days ago when or 3 days before it will air. But yeah, I don't know. It could have been done so much better, and I think that just has me annoyed. So I'm at a 5. I do like that it's on the pre-show though, because the pre-show needs some juice.
Yeah, I mean they've been doing this angle for a few weeks now, with Hook and Jack Perry about the FTW Championship. I thought the heel turn win was great for Jack Perry. I thought it was exactly what he needed. I think what he's been doing since then has been, trending upwards, but not like elite level. It's been like good, Like him running away from Hook was pretty entertaining for a couple of weeks, and then his promos since then have been kind of like baby's first heel promo. It's like Christian Cage, but without the verve and the ability to deliver it perfectly. Is the comparison I'd make, but I'd go higher. I'd go like this is at least a 6 and possibly a 7. They had a very good match the first time too, and I think it'll be good this time around.
Yeah, I think it will be good. I just think my interest level is a lot less just because of how they built it.
Sure.
But that's probably just a personal thing.
It is a personal thing. That's the whole point of this.
It's a really good pre-show match.
Yeah, it is, I think.
All right, what do we got next?
We got next Aussie Open against Better Than You Baby. Adam Cole and MJF challenging Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship on the pre-show. Where are you at on this?
10.
Full 10. Nice.
I'm at a 10. Look, as dumb as some of these segments with MJF and Cole have been, I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen with these guys.
Yeah. Some of these pre-tapes, I've been really down on because they've been dumb as hell, frankly. I didn't really think they were funny. But the in-ring stuff and the sit-down promos from this past Dynamite from these guys have been fantastic. Absolute home runs. MJF's been doing a great job, and Adam Cole has been hanging with them. They found themselves a really unique storyline that I think is working perfectly. The crowd loves it. They're eating it up. These guys are so over right now. And it's really intriguing as to what exactly will happen with this match, and the whole double baby face aspect of it. And I've really enjoyed it, frankly. Other than the parts I didn't enjoy, which is the stupidest analysis ever. But the stuff that's worked has worked really well. As we have a dog emergency up in Minnesota.
She just peed on the rug.
Oh boy. Well, you go handle that, and I'll go off on this some. I'll just lay out what I think are scenarios here for this match as we handle a dog urine issue. So basically, they could double babyface this and keep whatever the real big draw is for the actual pay-per-view. With the idea being that you have to pay to see the real resolution of this. But I have convinced myself that the money actually is in doing the big angle on this that sets up whatever happens on the proper show. So, we got ourselves, both guys have teased at various points turning on the other, and then they've been friends. They've hugged it out and declared that they're best friends, forever. And, the big question with this storyline is who's going to turn on who. I 100% believe, and will believe until I'm dead in the ground and buried, that the money here is going to be having one of them turn on the other on the pre-show to give that juice to the pay-per-view and convince people that you have to pay to see what happens next. I think that is 100% the smartest thing you can do here. And frankly, I also think that it's booking malpractice if you're going to have Adam Cole come out of this as the babyface and MJF as the heel. This is a situation where you've got MJF poised completely uniquely to be the biggest babyface in the company and arguably the biggest babyface in the industry right now. By having him be turned on and having him lose the title, I think later that night, and be the babyface that has been wronged and is coming back for what is rightfully his. I think that's the money. I think that's the 100% what you have to do with this angle. I think there's entirely too much connection with the crowd as far as MJF doing the "I'm your scumbag" thing. I think if you pull the trigger and make him turn heel on the fans again in this circumstance, I think you're going to kill any possibility of a big face turn down the road. This is the circumstance where you have to pull the trigger and make MJF the babyface. You have to do the turn. And I think the way to do it is to have Adam Cole turn on him in this match, or even before the match takes place. You know, you could set it up for the match and just have it be entirely an angle where no match takes place. Adam Cole immediately turns on him. The Kingdom and Roderick Strong come out and help him beat down MJF to set up Adam Cole's eventual title win later that night. And, but you could still go ahead with the match and just have Adam Cole turn at the right time in the match. But that's what you've got to do. You've got to have Adam Cole as the heel in the storyline. And it's the only thing that works, I think. Because not only does it work for the storyline itself, but like Roderick Roddy Strong, if he is not part of a plan here to stab MJF in the back, then he just looks like the biggest geek that has ever existed. I think you have to do it. I think you have to have babyface MJF. So I'm also at a 10 for this match.
Oh, you have to babyface MJF, but I think what you do here is you tease something. You don't go full bore, as I can hear Fred opening a can of beer during
Thai Dr. Pepper. It's a little early.
It's never, dude. I had 9 a.m. beers yesterday at the Minnesota State Fair. It's never too early to have a good one. It's too early to have like 6 good ones, but so I think you have to continue the tease. And then I think what you do is you have the Kingdom help Adam Cole win it, and Adam Cole reforms the Kingdom at the end of the show, and you get a babyface MJF chasing. And I think that's probably the best route here. I think like MJF's been a great champion. He's been champion for almost a year because he won it a full year. And I think you can give the title to Adam Cole and you establish the Kingdom. And then you know what you can do? You can have like a program down the line with the Kingdom versus the Elite, because obviously with the Super Click that with Cole and the Bucks, then you've got some more programs built in, and then Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, potentially for the title. There's a lot to go with, and I think that's the best route. But who knows what they'll do? They've done such a great job with misdirection and trying to figure out and tell us, hey, we're going to do this. Oh no, we're going to do this. Nobody knows, and that's what makes pro wrestling great. Nobody knows.
Yeah, the intrigue.
Yes. The intrigue is fantastic. Now, let's get to the main card, Fred. What do you have first?
I'm just working straight off Wikipedia here. They have first the Young Bucks against FTR. And look, this match is going well. I'll allow you to give your rating first. 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. I forget now which we do because I'm a very good podcaster. Where are you at on this one?
The build has been spotty, but the match is going to deliver. I'm at a 9. Look, they wanted to hold off on this feud because of the no fans. When FTR came in under unfortunate circumstances during the midst of the pandemic, but their first match was very good. The second match was way too long. This match, they're going to get X amount of time in front of the biggest crowd in the history of professional wrestling to date. and it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
The build's kind of been stinky, though.
It's been a shitty build.
I don't care. Bucks versus FTR doesn't need a build. Hey, I want to fight you. We're 1-1. I want to prove we're better. There's your build.
Yeah, I just wish that like they had done, a little more to build this so that it really felt special. But you're right in that you don't need to do anything really special for this to be a great match. I think that if you'd put some juice on it, it would have helped, of course. But, where we are, we're going to end up getting with, if this is a 4-star match on my scale, which is different from others, I'm one of the easier graders on the Voices, family. But like for me, a 4-star match is like, hey, this is the lower end of great. And it's like getting to the point where you should definitely check it out. With these two, if it's a 4-star match, you're like, man, that was a disappointment.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, as good as these 4 guys are, it's going to be, I think, an opportunity for a really special match that could steal the show, that could end up in the year-end voting. This atmosphere is going to be insane. We haven't really talked about that, but I can't even imagine, what the circumstances are going to be for this show, what it's going to be like to be in the stadium of, one of, if not the largest wrestling crowd ever. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be bonkers. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to drop a 10 for the match, but once I factor in the build, like I'm probably down to an 8, frankly, but yeah.
You don't need a build for this, and they did a build, which I'm.
You don't need a big build for this. You need a little build.
They just stunk with the build that they did.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't much of a build. I will continue to argue that, but yeah,
I think the go home promo just stunk.
It was nothing special. I'm not going to say it stunk, but I'm going to say it was disappointing.
Disappointing, I think, is the best term. All right, what's next?
Next up is the legendary 4-way women's match with the long history of it in AEW. But it's Britt Baker, DMD, against Saraya, against Toni Storm, against the champion Hikaru Shida.
I'm at a 7 here.
Really?
Let me explain. I want to see what Saraya is in this match. That has me really intrigued. She has not been good in AEW. She's had one.
She hasn't.
She's had one good match, and I think it was the match with Britt Baker. Baker kind of carried her a little bit, but that ended up being a pretty good match. Not great, not special, not worth what you're paying her, but it was good. She's gonna have her working boots on. She's gonna bust her ass wrestling in Wembley Stadium in her home country. I think this match could really be a surprise on the show because you have 2 tremendous workers in Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida. You have a pretty good one who's inconsistent in Britt Baker, and you have Saraya, who has like 15 years of experience. She's worked well before. Can she pull out the match of her life here? If there was a time for her to do it, it's now. And that's why I'm really intrigued.
That's a good argument.
85,000 plus fans in her home country where she's probably wrestled on a big stage a handful of times. She's going to be all in for this match. And I don't, that's a good pun, but it's not what I'm trying to say. She's going to be ready to roll and she's going to bust her ass in this match. And I'm excited for it.
That's a convincing argument that I completely disagree with. I'm going to 3 on this because I mean, this, we already talked about it, but the build for this has been shit. And I hope you're right about Saraya. I hope she does step up and that she delivers like a great performance, but I don't think she's got it just off of what she's done so far. She is not, she's rough in the ring. I mean, she barely works any. Which, I mean, not that she really needs the reps to improve. I think she is what she is, but I'm just not like a big Saraya wrestler fan. Now, I think she's found herself a good spot with the Outcast nonsense. And I think it might be prudent to have the Outcast turn on Toni Storm and cost her the championship. The downside of that means that we get Saraya Women's World Champion, which I'm not super excited about. But I would love for them to salvage something out of this. I think they're going to go in motivated. And so they could surprise me, and I hope they do. But just off of what we've been given so far, this is a 3.
I don't blame anybody for not being excited about this match. I'm just very intrigued about Saraya in her home country, and that's going to carry it for me.
Yeah. Next up, we have the tag coffin match, which I honestly just hope is just a Yokozuna-sized coffin to put both the guys in at the same time. Christian Cage and Swerve Strickland against Darby Allin and Sting. Where you at on this one?
I'm at about a 6 or a 7. I don't like the idea of a tag team coffin match, but whatever. You're going to get Sting in front of 85,000 people at Wembley. Yeah. And Christian Cage. And how about this for Darby and Swerve? That's good for them. Like, Sting's wrestled at Starrcades and WrestleManias and Bound for Glories. He's wrestling in front of some huge crowds. And so's Christian.
Yeah.
But Darby and Swerve have never wrestled in front of something like this, and I'm very happy for them. This could end up being really good. Christian Cage is going to have his working boots on.
He'll have to.
So is Sting. And Darby's going to take some stupid bump that looks like he should be dead, and he's going to get up just fine because his name is Darby Allin.
Yeah.
This is going to end up being a train wreck in all the best ways, and I can't wait.
Yeah, the problem with this is I remember what happened to Shawn Michaels that caused his first retirement. So I just thinking about that, I just worry about Darby. Did you give a number? You did give a number on this, right?
6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7. I'm at an 8 on this because I think it could be a great match, and even if they are Fox nonsense, which there's still going to be a lot of questions about moving forward. I think that I think it's going to deliver. I think Christian is not a downgrade as a worker from AR Fox, but like just maybe less well fitting for this style of match, which you probably want to see just crazy shit after crazy shit. And at Christian's age and after all his body's been through, that's probably not his strongest point, but I think he can step it up and also deliver in this match. So, but yeah, I'm going to drop a 7. I think I'm going to settle on a 7 here. And I think this will be fun.
Fun is good. And yeah. This is probably going to end up being the semi-main because almost every Darby Allin match feels like it ends up being the semi-main of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, especially when Sting's involved too.
Yeah. So Darby CM Punk was the semi-main of All Out 2021. Darby was the semi-main at Forbidden Door with Sting. It just seems to be a tradition. And cool. What's next, Fred?
What's next is a lot of gold. The Golden Elite, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Adam Page. I wonder have we actually had these three just as a trio before? I don't know offhand, and I probably should have looked that up before the show.
I don't think so, because when Omega and Ibushi got back together in New Japan, Adam Page was on the other side because they had the Wrestling Dontaku. It was
the Bucks.
Cody versus Ibushi and Page versus Kenny.
Yeah.
Then the back-to-back nights, and they kind of positioned Page away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they've ever been a trio together before. Now, could they have been in ROH? I still doubt it because of the same constructs that I just gave.
And Page wasn't a big pushed act at that point either. He was still developing.
No, he started getting the push in the G1 of 2018.
Yeah,
they had him beat Minoru Suzuki. That was a really big deal. He finished with 8 points and a 4-5 record, which for his spot in the company, that was pretty good.
That was a good push, yeah. But they're facing Konosuke Takeshita, Juice Robinson, and Jay White, the latter two representing Bullet Club Gold. Where are you on this match? 1 to 10.
8.
8.
This should be just Omega Takeshita singles.
Yeah, they're probably saving something like that for Chicago, I imagine. That's my guess.
Screw Chicago. I really think that they should have done everything they could to get a really big singles match. out of a guy like Omega on this show. Now, the trios match is going to be very good, and AEW is a trios company, but I think that they didn't do enough to really give this crowd a true great like special singles match. Now, we'll talk about Jericho and Ospreay here in a little bit, but I think it was a mistake. I don't know if it's going to end up mattering, but I still think they should have really made an effort to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. it's not easy. But I think they have to build some stuff off this show for All Out. Otherwise, they're not going to have any build basically for that show for the most part. So I think this is the trade-off that you're losing out on a singles match in this circumstance to get a few more guys on the show, and so that you can set something up for the next pay-per-view that is like immediately afterwards. So,
and that's exactly what this is. That doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It would be more intriguing to me if it was otherwise, different. But I mean, sacrifices must be made. So I'm going to go. I'll check in at a 9 on this. I'm really looking forward to this, even if the build on it has not been particularly great. But I think this is a start and not an end. So that'll work for me. Next up is 5-on-5 action in the Stadium Stampede. You've got Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, and Penta El Cero Miedo against the Blackpool Combat Club, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta, as well as the hired guns, Ortiz and Mike Santana.
Mike Santana?
I think he's going by Mike Santana, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
I think they mentioned that just once on commentary, yeah.
Okay. I'm at a 10 for this. Anytime AEW does these type of just insane brawls, they nail it. Production.
I will caveat that once, because the second Stadium Stampede match with the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle, I think it was, that stunk. That was not good.
Ooh, I disagree. It was different. I like that they ended it in the ring because it was the first match back with fans. But I thought that was good. It wasn't as good as the first one. But
oh, no. Nowhere close. But
I'll say this. They've had a lot of production issues lately. And they did have some production issues with Anarchy in the Arena the second go-around back in May.
Yeah.
They have normally been really freaking good at producing these types of matches. I like the cohesiveness here of why Santana and Ortiz are teaming with the Blackpool Combat Club. One, Moxley has said you have to bleed with us to be with us. Santana Ortiz did.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Kingston was on the Blackpool Combat Club side. They have beef with Eddie Kingston. Bada bing, bada boom. And Eddie Kingston still obviously has beef with the Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah. And
they're not members of the Inner Circle anymore. And you have the Ortiz Eddie Kingston storyline that's been going on and off throughout the company for the last year. I think this works out well. I don't think they're hired guns. I think they're going to be full-fledged members. That's my take on it. But even so, this is really good. I think this has huge opportunity here to steal the show. And it's going to take a lot of really good production from AEW. But, man, they got a real shot here.
Yeah, I hope they succeed. I hope it works. We will see. There's always a little risk with this style of match, especially in this setting. One presumes that it's going to be live rather than a pre-tape deal, in part at least. I guess we'll see on that. They could do some pre-tape segments like they did with the Inner Circle one I mentioned earlier. But yeah, I'm curious about how this goes, and yeah, I'll check in at a 9 on this. I think I even though it's been a little stutter step just because of Eddie going off to the G1, I think they did a good job writing him off of AEW TV for that. And the whole Eddie Kingston John Moxley thing is like one of the best long-term stories they have going on in the company. So I like that. Next up is Chris Jericho against Will Ospreay. Or
10. 10.5, 11. I can't wait.
Okay.
I seriously can't wait. Will Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world. I could make a real argument he's the best wrestler of all time. And that's going to sound like sacrilege to some people. Like, he's got it in the ring. He's had it in the ring for a decade. And every year he gets better and better and better. He had 2 matches this year that I called the best match of all time. And I still think Ospreay Jericho or Ospreay Omega 2 is better than Ospreay Omega 1, even with the Don Callis shit, whatever. But he's so good, and he's figuring it out with his promos too. He's all encompassing, and you're going against an all-time great in Chris Jericho. This is going to be phenomenal. Why is it going to be phenomenal here, Fred? Jericho is a mind for the business. And Jericho is going to figure it out, how to work with this guy. And Ospreay is going to as well. They're going to have a plan. They're going to know what to do, considering Jericho's limitations. This is going to be great. And I would be shocked if this doesn't at least hit 4.25, 4.5.
Yeah.
This could be a 5-star match. That's the ceiling here. And Jericho does have some issues as far as with his working style. He's just, his body doesn't have it anymore the way it used to. But they're both so smart, and they both understand how to work. They're going to be able to work around those limitations. And I think that is why I'm so excited about it. That Jericho Eddie Kingston match, I think that was one I saw live at Full Gear, where
that was awesome.
Kingston finally got the win.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. Ospreay can do his flippy do stuff. Jericho can do his big high spots. Ospreay ends up getting the win in front of the Wembley crowd, and you can build it with story. You can build a cohesive match in the ring. We couldn't have said that about Will Ospreay 5 years ago, where we could trust him to put together a really cohesive story in the middle of a match, because he was still mainly a spot fest kind of guy. Now he's a complete worker, and I am very excited. Are there better matches you could book to Chris Jericho? Yeah, of course. Are there any that are going to have this kind of cachet, that are going to be have a reverence? This is a match for Will Ospreay that's like a dream match for him, because our formative years were Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Ospreay is a couple years younger than I am. We grew up watching Jericho. This is going to be really, really good. And Ospreay's going to do everything he can for this guy. Hell, he took multiple Destinos on his own against Naito to make sure he got over in that G1 semifinal. Imagine what Ospreay would do for Chris Jericho.
Yeah. For sure. It was he's going to do everything he can to just make sure that works and that it's a success. And it's if he's able to accomplish it, and it's not like Jericho's completely shot. He's not what he once was. Obviously, he's up there in age, but he could really be able to be lifted, not carried, but lifted to a very special match. And I think they really did a great job of heating this up, unlike the Young Bucks FTR match with their promo segment on this past Dynamite. I thought they did a great job working that angle and giving both guys motivation to get to do what they need to. And I'm pretty excited at this point. So I'm going to be conservative just because there's a little bit of a potential for some disappointments, because I'm still a little scared from the Adam Cole Chris Jericho match a few months ago that just was terrible. But I'm going to go a 9 on this. And I hope it's a success.
Chris Jericho's going to have his working boots on in a big way too, because it's Wembley.
Yeah.
And the promo, it got some mixed reviews as far as the presentation of Will Ospreay, which I think I have a better understanding now, because I think the Some of the European people in the wrestling scene were really down on the appearance of Will Ospreay, and I noticed that a lot of the American fans weren't, and I think it's a cultural disconnect between because British culture versus American culture. I don't think anybody else really thought much about the appearance of Will Ospreay, but then it was described to me by a friend of the show and Voice of Wrestling's own Joey O'Doherty said, it's like an over the top cartoonish thing, and Americans love that kind of stuff, but to people from Europe, it's it's viewed differently. And I think I get that. I understand it now. I didn't initially, because I'm just Ospreay is just, he's got his own kit, which I thought was a nice touch. And it felt like he was trying to just get bruv over. American fans love to chant something, and that's going to be their thing now. And you can view it kind of how you want. And I thought the promo hit well, the why behind these two wanting to do the match, and it got me real excited. I loved Ospreay calling out Jericho, because I think this is an important thing. Jericho's going to play Judas with Fozzy at Wembley to come out. And Ospreay's like, you're only doing this match so you can claim that Fozzy played Wembley. Just great stuff. Great stuff. Reality-based promos are the best. And this match is going to be tremendous.
Yeah. I thought Ospreay did a fantastic job. Did he use bruv a few too many times? Yeah, sure. But if that's your big complaint, I mean, he had basically this one segment to get over a character, and obviously the character they're going with here is loudmouth Brit. That's an asshole. And the easiest way to get that done is to go full chaff. Even us idiotic Americans are aware of what that means. To some extent, and it was just shorthand in that case. I don't think you got to worry about him wearing, going full soccer hooligan and for the rest of his AEW career or anything. But if you've got to, it's kind of how wrestling works. If you've got to get your stuff over, you got to dumb it down a little bit, just at least initially. And there it is, but yeah, I'm excited for this, and I think it will hopefully rock. Ospreay is so good at this point. I'd be astonished if this was anything short of excellent.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait. How many more matches do we have? 3?
We got 3, baby. So we'll just power through here. Samoa Joe against the air quotes real world champion CM Punk. Where are you at on this?
Man, I'm at a 5. I think they really blew the importance of this match with the CM Punk win in the Owen Hart tournament. And
you took this out of my mouth, man.
I hate CM Punk. I'm so sick of him. I'm sick of his bullshit. I'm sick of him running people away from the arena. I'm sick of him being him. And I'm at a point where I understand from a business perspective, it's a net positive. It's great. From an enjoyment standpoint, I'm completely out. I'm over CM Punk.
It is it's a shame, because he's still a very good performer, more so in the talking portion than the wrestling portion. He can still do some good wrestling, but obviously his best days are behind him at this point. This, you stole the words out of my mouth with regards to the booking of the Owen. It made no sense to me to have him beat, they do this big build about how CM Punk's never beat him, and he gets his first win with a small package in a, 12-minute TV match. That just didn't fit the story to me. It should have been a big match like this, and it should have meant more, and instead it was just he won the semifinals. Cool, good for him. See you next week. It's all right, cool, great. I can separate CM Punk the performer from CM Punk the human being still. The I'm glad he went away after Brawl Out just to have that break. Otherwise, I might be singing a different tune. But I'm still, I hope this is good, but I'm pessimistic, especially after the. Granted, it was just one move and one angle, but the GTS that CM Punk did on Joe last Saturday was atrocious. It looked like crap. And Punk's never been exactly the cleanest worker, but even by his standards, that was rough. And I don't know. Right now, I'm sitting at a 6. It just feels like a real odd build, and I don't know. Samoa Joe is not having great matches regularly anymore, and CM Punk's not having great matches regularly anymore. I mean, he's been in some, but he's been teaming with like FTR, who are obviously very good workers right now. Fantastic even. So yeah, you're going to get some credit for being in 6-man tags where you're teaming with FTR, but like I could probably team with FTR if it's worked right. We could have at least a 3.5-star match, because that's how good FTR is.
I think the match is going to be good. I just don't care. And Punk being Punk has honestly made me not care. And it's a shame because I was really into his return. It came earlier, it would have been this Saturday was the 1-year anniversary of Punk's return.
What a year.
Last Saturday. And I was actually at my wedding reception. So
I forgot this.
Yeah, so no, it was 2 years, 2-year anniversary. So
yeah,
it was Sunday. 2 years go on Sunday, and so I got married during the pandemic, and we had a dinner for everybody who came because we only were able to have so many people, and then we had a big one a year later. So it was at the big one, and I'm sitting on my phone because the TV in the lobby of the reception area didn't have TNT.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think you mean the Big Bill one.
The Big Bill one. I love it. No, that's very good. So I'm sitting on my phone watching with my buddy, and my wife comes out and is like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "CM Punk's back!" Like, just all excited. She's like, "What? Pro wrestling? Just let me enjoy this." She's like, "Whatever." And a couple of her friends like, "He's watching pro wrestling," and she's like, it has to be something big. Otherwise, he's not stupid. Like but it was our second one, so I kind of got away with it.
Yeah, a little easier.
Man. I think I got home and I had it recorded. I think I watched it like 6 times because it was just such a special moment in pro wrestling. And now I can't stand him. I don't want to watch him anymore.
Yeah,
it's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it stinks, man. It's a bummer. But this is the life we live. Now, I do want to ask you, do you think you'd be so bothered by it if you didn't have to do a podcast every week and talk about it and like cover every aspect of the nonsense?
I think I'd be less annoyed by it, but I'd still be annoyed by it. Like, dude, Punk, you can tell he's out to business for himself. Like, it's just annoying. I'm just over it.
Fair enough. We got 2 matches left. House of Black with their World Trios Championship against Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed. Where are you at, 1 to 10?
All right, Claire just peed on the floor. Look, Claire's 6 and she's a rescue dog. She basically spent her entire life in a kennel, so she doesn't understand. We're trying, but long stretches like this get a little tough. So I'm at about a 7. I think this could be a really good match. It sounds like they're going to get the ass man gimmick for Billy Gunn, and that's kind of cool. I think this is the best told story right now in AEW, which really tells you a lot about where the company is. It's going to be a good match. The Acclaimed have become really good in-ring workers. House of Black rocks as a trio. They're great. This could end up being really good. And this is like a perfect match in the mid-card where you just throw them out there and be like, hey, you got 15 minutes. Go have fun. That's what I think this is.
Yeah, I'm at a 6 on this. I mean, it's not going to be a great match, but it could be a fun one, and really, that's all I'm hoping for on this one. So, hopefully, we'll get some good, fun stuff out of it. And our main event, Adam Cole against MJF for the AEW World Championship, 1-10. Where are you, Tyler?
We talked about it earlier. I'm at like a 14.
Yeah.
This is the intrigue here on what's going to happen is everything. And their first match was great. This has a chance to be like, I'm not going to say an all-timer, but an all-timer in AEW canon. Like, this could really change the direction of this company. If they nail this, it could, like, we had the really nice article, and I can't remember who wrote it for Voices of Wrestling. It was, but like, this isn't the AEW I signed up for. This isn't the AEW that I loved watching. Like, is this the end for me? There are people like that out there, and this could really solidify them leaving or them staying because, okay, they nailed this. There's still hope. This is still the AEW that I remember, even if it's got some of the extra bullshit. If they blow it at Wembley, it's going to be a stain on this company, and it could really hurt them long term.
Yeah. Shane Silver, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great article, too. Nice work, Shane. It's not a detriment. It's going to be like, I'm trying to think. Kevin Nash beating Goldberg for the title at Starrcade. You didn't see it right away because 98 business was really good. 99 business started to really downturn, and 2000 it crashed. I think you're looking at it could be tasing Goldberg at Starrcade level if they blow this.
Yeah.
And it could be the beginning of the downturn of this company. Like, there's always a moment where you can be like, oh, it goes up. During the Monday Night War, it was Tony Schiavone saying that Mick Foley's going to win the world title. That'll put the butts in the seats. Everybody flipped. They saw Mick Foley win the world title. It was a great moment. That was kind of the turning point for WWF. And this could be a turning point for AEW if they either crush it or blow it. And to me, that intrigue is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, they really do have the possibility of just completely owning themselves. Fingers crossed that they don't. Obviously, but it's such a big moment in the company's history, and frankly, I think for the first real big moment in the history of AEW, it feels like that there's not really a guarantee that they're going to blow it. And I think that's really interesting. Maybe, they may fail. And if that's the case, that's going to hurt them, I think. Yeah. So, but hope, fingers crossed, and hope. I think this match is definitely going to lean heavy on the storytelling, and I think that's going to give it some variability in terms of just how good it's going to be. Because I think AEW, the grand, no pun intended, but the home runs in terms of match quality and the grand slams are the ones that are just, hey, we're doing a match, and there's some story with it, sure, but really we're just trying to have the best match we can, and I think where the risk comes in is if this goes kind of like Adam Cole, Chris Jericho, where the work just isn't up to it and it's too much story and it doesn't work. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's very intriguing and not necessarily in the best way. But
this could be the turning point of the company, whether good or bad. And I'm very excited to see what happens here. And we have All Out, which we have a couple matches announced for. Darby Allin is going to challenge Luchasaurus for the TNT title. And Will Hobbs versus Miro. That could be excellent.
Yeah, that could be really fun.
Yes, yeah, and
but that's the card,
the
and that's the show, really. I think. Anything else you want to talk about from this past week?
No, my dogs are like the Frenchie version of purring at me, and they just want dad. So we're gonna go all out.
Sounds
the
like
biggest wrestling show in the history of all time this Sunday. If you're ordering outside the United States, voicesofwrestling.com/fight to help us get a little bit of a kickback. We would greatly appreciate it, and you will not want to miss it.
Red Circle.
And yes. What about Red Circle?
We got a Red Circle, right? That they can click on and then give us money if they want to.
Yes, it's been in the show notes for a few weeks, and click it.
Do it capitalism.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, we are venture capitalists trying to make a little bit of money on the side, and anything that you believe that we have earned is 100% greatly appreciated. That is in the show notes, as well as Fred's Patreon and my Viking-centric YouTube channel, Vikings First and Skull. Go ahead and subscribe to both of those, and you can find me on Twitter at The Real Forno. You can find us both on Blue Sky. And ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the greatest wrestling show of all time.
At least the biggest. Hopefully it is the greatest, but we'll see. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.